We have this paper out of Stanford where these researchers claim to have trained a reasoning model for $50 in cloud credits. That's making the rounds.
Well, we can ask Renee Haas that. I think that by the end, these guys are going to make it so that they pay you to take that. I mean, there's a little absurdity going on here. Why is NVIDIA not at 20 or 30? Because it's not true.
Well, I think there's two different things here. One is the potential commoditization of the AI providers, the OpenAIs, the Geminis, although it's obviously associated with the Anthropics. You want to go through them, and whether they will be sort of offering all of them a product that is very much similar. And so, what is going to end up differentiating them?
Right.
By the way,
has one.
OpenAI trying to raise another $40 billion at a $300 billion plus valuation.
Well, we have to hear what Amazon says, because Amazon could lay to waste everybody.
And then there's the other side of it, which is yes, but you're going to need inference. Inferencing is everything, and that's still going to require Blackwell chips from NVIDIA, the only real player, even though others are trying to design some of their chips.
Now, that's what we're going to hear from Renee Haas.
And any efficiencies will just be baked in and ultimately get us to wherever we're going a bit faster.
Well, what's hurt this period, it is the NVIDIA quiet period. And what if Jensen were to come out and say, you know what, I hope this stuff goes to zero, because then you'll be able to use the part of Blackwell that is so great, which I think is true. In other words, there was another recommendation today of NVIDIA. They're obviously trying to get it so that it stabilizes. But I think that NVIDIA, if we hear tonight that Amazon says, you know what, we got to spend and our Trainium isn't going to do it, we remain great partners in NVIDIA. If we hear remain great partners in NVIDIA, David, NVIDIA goes to 245.
Really?
Yeah.
As we look ahead to NVIDIA, guys, I spoke to an investor who actually doesn't think that dollar strength will hurt its international sales anytime soon, because tech companies outside of the U.S., he says they're going to buy as many chips as they can before tougher export controls go into place. The bigger concern, he warns, is later in the year when we might see more CapEx digestion. Back to you.
I mean, we'll be interested to see what NVIDIA says on their call, because if they give any hint of, hey, demand has slowed or all this CapEx is not coming our way, even though the stock's trading in the high 20s, you could see a pullback. However, I still think NVIDIA is one of our largest holdings. We've cut it back over time, but I do think the secular tailwind there, and you could have a couple of quarters, and we know NVIDIA can be down double digits or it'll be up. So you want to also pick high-quality companies, and I think, for us, NVIDIA is one of them.
And with all due respect to Galileo, the center of the stock market universe remains NVIDIA. They're going to report their earnings on February 26th. By then, I think this DeepSeek scare will have completely faded into a rearview mirror. In fact, more and more research is coming out that says that $6 million price tag may be just a little funky. Maybe it was more like $1.6 billion instead of a handful of old NVIDIA chips. Maybe it was 50,000 NVIDIA chips. So maybe the DeepSeek scare goes away. All right, I want to bring in my first guest, and let's start with NVIDIA. Lance Roberts. Hey, Lance, I just want to get your thoughts on this whole DeepSeek scare. It seems to be fading away a little bit. In fact, some are saying it sparked a bidding war for all the other NVIDIA chips.
Well, it did. And we actually wrote an article right after that came out and said, look, there's so many things we don't know. And now all this stuff's starting to come to light. Maybe there was 15,000 NVIDIA chips used. There's a whole lot of questions around that. But then also one of the things we've got to be aware of is this is a total Chinese-owned AI intelligence company. Remember, we're already in the middle of a ban for TikTok. So it's very likely, in fact, the bill is just being introduced now to potentially ban DeepSeek from use in the U.S. So this just opens up the ability for U.S. to continue to dominate in this space. But competition breeds more competition, which is great, because that's just more demand that's going to be needed. Again, right now, NVIDIA is the lead of its chips. It's over 20%. AMD is there, but it's going to be NVIDIA from now on.
All right, so here's the thing. Coming into the week, I want to show the audience something, right? Coming into the week, NVIDIA was trading at $120 a share. The lowest target on Wall Street is $130 a share. In fact, a couple of firms see it at $220. So you've got a stock with an average target of $173. Even right now, it's at $128. I know you had talked about buying the dip. Are you in there buying this yet?
Well, we've been long NVIDIA for a long time, and it's one of our favorite holdings in our portfolio. But yes, what I want to see is a little bit more recovery. It had a really sharp sell-off, following this earnings announcement, DeepSeek, and all this that was going on. That volatility is now clearing itself out. I think over the next few days, we'll probably have a very good entry point to add to that position. But yes, I am going to be buying more of that position. It's just a question of timing.
Would you buy before or after the earnings report?
We're going to be buying before the earnings report. I am betting that earnings report is going to be a lot better than estimates are expecting right now. A lot of those estimates have come down a lot, which have now really kind of set NVIDIA up the ability to beat those estimates and deliver a better outlook than what's expected.
I mean, NVIDIA stock has been hit hard out of late as well. In fact, NVIDIA is down 14% in just the past month. A lot of that follows DeepSeek's large language model announcement. Remember that? But despite the recent decline, your next guest thinks this could actually be a buying opportunity to get back into NVIDIA. Joining us now to talk about it all is Joe Moore. He is semiconductor analyst at Morgan Stanley. Joseph, we've now had, a week, 10 days to actually absorb and try to learn about DeepSeek after it kind of came out of the blue and hit us, a lot of us, very hard and very quickly. What have we learned, and what makes you a little more optimistic about NVIDIA?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's a very impressive model that was created out of China. But the space here is one that has a lot of innovation over the course of any given year, any given month. And I think, we see this as more of an evolutionary gain, where DeepSeek was able to get a little bit more out of a small investment than we've seen in the past. But our checks would say that investment in the space remains very robust. We're not seeing people rethink the larger kind of cluster, what we call large cluster training models that people have been talking about. There's sort of very clear evidence that persists. So we still quite like the stock. And I think, Jensen has talked about providing a 1,000,000x performance in.
Good morning, friends. Currently, we need to analyze Tesla stock on a 5-minute time frame. You can see that after the stock opened, it dropped here. Later, the stock sustained for a short while, then there was an upside movement, followed by a slight down movement, and then another upside. Today, we will learn how we can trade Tesla. You can see the opening here. The stock concluded its trading session at precisely the same level where it had initially opened earlier in the day. Should it open higher on the current day, we can consider moving to the call side and execute trades in that upward direction. Nevertheless, in this situation, we will adopt a resistance-based approach to our trading strategy. Furthermore, there is the potential for the stock to decline from this point, which means that based on the stock's movement at this particular level, we will adjust our trading actions accordingly. You can watch the NVIDIA stock on a 5-minute time frame. We have seen buying for 2 days now. Currently, it is in a resistance zone. After opening here, if the stock gives an upside movement, then we can go in the upside direction to trade, or if it breaks out of a support zone, we can trade in the downside direction. So, if a downfall comes from here, there will be a support zone that can give movement again in NVIDIA stock. You can see that Dow Jones has witnessed a heavy decline. After the drop, Dow Jones has sustained here and closed at this level. For today and tomorrow, we can subscribe to this. From here, the downside direction support zone will remain, and now on the side. The previous day's